Hello and welcome back to the left side of reality. This is your host as always, Snow the First. Last time we spent the entire stream doing our best to level up the agents, and this time it's gonna be much the same. Although this stream is gonna be a little different in a few ways. First, let me pull up the game screen. My stream deck is fixed. That was bothering me for a while. First of all, people may be wondering what's up with the very dramatic stream title. It's a reference to our new tool abnormality, the Flesh Idol here, but it's also a reference to Danganronpa 2. I don't know how many people pay attention to soundtrack names, but Let Us Sing of a Hollow Victory is a soundtrack for a very specific moment, and I felt it was worth commending here. I'll get into that in a second, but first I want to talk about the other thing that's different, which is to say, it was actually my birthday this past Thursday. So, while I'm doing everything else, I'm going to, while checking everything else, I'm going to be eating some leftover birthday cake. I always have trouble finding words at the beginning of the stream, as I get my bearings and try to figure out what I want the structure to be. Well, I guess in a sense, today isn't going to be that much different than yesterday. It's going to be a lot of basically finding anyone that has a super low stat in something and sending them somewhere where it can be fixed. Okay, you guys desperately need justice training. You I might send to him. The other two are Rin and Alyssa? Yeah. Oh, Alyssa's super low. Jesus. I'm gonna check something real quick. A tad risky, but that's information. Would 0.7 white resistance be good enough for repression training or no? Because I really need to boost up repression or justice for some of these people. What else did I want to do? You also need justice. Oh, everyone here needs justice, Jesus. This is gonna be by and large a justice day because I did a lot of instinct last time, and now justice is just gonna be the most needed stat. If this comes back to bite me later, then I guess that's just a thing that's happening. Okay, you're good. You need hella more justice. May as well keep doing that for you today. same with you. Although you guys can just use him nearby. You can't. You know what? Since it's the beginning of the day anyways, I'm gonna use Parker here as a guinea pig of sorts. Just common, eh? That's not great. Oh, it's because your temperament is still kind of low. And your prudence. And maybe before focusing on justice, I should focus on those two. And then Parker can focus on that. You desperately need instinct. Like, very desperately. You're a hot newbie. Where to send you? Like, could you successfully work with the wolf and not die even with a red weakness? It says high, but... yeah. This is kind of the problem. All red abnormalities do red damage. I might send you to the bird instead. Okay. Before I actually do any work, I want to get a general idea of who's doing what. You also could use a bit of prudence work. You might be fine for the wolf, since you aren't weak. You, I might send you to... no, I already have someone for Burrowing Heaven. I might do it anyways. Burrowing Heaven could probably be done twice without a major issue. You are also good for instinct training with the bird, as are you. I'll have to do rotations here and there on who does what when. Okay. I'm starting to get an idea of how this day is going to shape out. So, first of all, I'm going to use our new abnormality here, Flesh Idol, and go back to the thing I was saying where I was explaining the name. So, in my spare time, when I even have spare time anymore, I am a writer. I write a variety of things. I'm pretty, like, free about what kind of plots I do. But one genre in which I've done a lot with is mystery writing. I have written at least a couple of complete mystery stories and have several more ongoing. So I like to both play mystery stories and dissect how they work. Which brings us to the episode title, because Sing Us a Song of Hollow Victory is from Danganronpa 2. The Danganronpa series is widely considered to be volatile in quality at times. It can be very, very good, but very, very bad at the same time. Although you'll get disagreements on what's considered good and bad, but for the most part, everyone agrees that it's a wild ride. And one of those times that people agree, okay, this is very, very good, is towards the end of is Chapter 5 of Danganronpa 2. Don't want to get into too many details because spoilers, but basically one of the most chilling scenes is a soundtrack with a music piece that's called Let Us Sing a Song of Hall of Victory. And the funny thing is, it's a piece of music that exists in universe. The characters commented on it. It's a scene that's always stuck with me, is what I'm saying. We do need to send someone to the wolf at some point because we still need to get all the armor from it. Like, what did we need from it? 200 some odd. Actually, I did have a question about that I thought I would ask while I'm here. You say that the shelter is no longer a viable way of winning the encounter. I did not see what about the day was different that it would make the shelter non-viable. Okay, who needs a... I forgot Adam was here. Who here needs some instinct training and could, There was someone I thought could have been good for this. Summer, maybe. I'll send Finn instead. Has some resistances and has the lowest fortitude of that group. Thank you for explaining. I understand now. Actually, that reminds me of a related question I had that I'm going to ask as well because it's like, okay, I want to know just so that I have the information. The most infamous of the days is day 49. For various reasons. It combines Hakma and Bina. But the thing is, I only ever see the Bina fight talked about when it comes to day 49. There's technically two options for tackling that day, and that's going all the way to the midnight and facing the claw again. Why do people not talk about facing the claw as a viable option? I think they were in Central Command, yeah, basically. Okay, which kind of goes back to my question. When it comes to day 49, why do people only ever talk about the Bina fight? Oh, that was Bella? Yeah, that was Bella. So, in the end, people find it's easier and more efficient to just kill Bina than have to deal with her for the whole day. While easier being the very, very loosely implied word there. I actually want to swing back to what I was saying about I actually want to swing back to what I was saying about being a writer myself. Because being a writer has given me new appreciation for other creative people. But whereas my work is seen by like some hundreds of people at most, and don't get me wrong, I do appreciate each and every one of them. People that have like actual shows are being seen by thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of people. I can't even begin to imagine what kind of pressure that entails. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, one aspect about my new job that I have not brought up yet is that it is unfortunately a smidge far away. It takes me an hour to get there every day, and an hour to go back home. It's completely thrown off my schedule, and I'm still in the trying to fix it, but for now, it is what it is. And I don't like driving in silence, so in order to pass the time, lately I've given to listening to podcasts. Oh god, I still remember what a gong show Chesed was. How did no one die during Chesed? That feels like that feels like it was a miracle. I'm gonna have Tatiana take the boost as always, so I can see who around here could use some attachment work. Well, I was just thinking Parker. Who else could use some attachment? Okay, but back to what I was saying. One podcast I've been listening to is an officially sanctioned podcast for Avatar The Last Airbender. And when I say officially sanctioned, I mean like backed up by Nickelodeon that features people that are actually from the show crew. So it is basically as official a source of information as you could ever possibly get. And it's very interesting to hear behind the scenes tidbits about your favorite shows, but it also tells you about the blood, sweat, and tears that go into these shows. Like standout one of the standout locations from Last Airbender was Ba Sing Se in the Earth Kingdom, and in order to be able to accurately draw that, the creators were inspired by a location called the Forbidden City in China. But it wasn't good enough to just look it up. The creators personally went to China in order to explore the area and basically see it with their own eyes. So if you wonder why the show is as good as it is, that it's because that's the level of dedication that is put behind it. I'm gonna have some cake here for a second. Ah, there we go. Melting down is our wolf buddy. Adam, you could do it. No. Maxim might be able to do it since they have Grinder Mark 4. No, that could be smidge dangerous. Adam, then. Okay, but that isn't to say Last Airbender is flawless. There are points of contention in Last Airbender that get debated about often. And one such point of debate is how the ending happens. Because it's basically the agreed on goal from the very beginning of the show is that they have to stop the Fire Lord, the leader of the Fire Nation that is waging a war of conquest across the entire nation, across the entire world, for really no good reason other than they could. I do want to get back to you on that, because I feel like it's one of the things that shows the most just how truly rough it is to make a show. But back to what I was saying. Every person in the facility is gonna have the damn smoke pipe by the end of this, just because this is the best Justice trainer. Okay, but from the very beginning, the goal was to stop the Fire Lord. They want the Fire Nation to please stop conquering everywhere, and the best way to do that is to defeat the leader. But it's never really touched on what stopping the Fire Lord was entailed until the heroes were in the Fire Nation, and therefore had to directly confront the fact. And this is where our hero Aang realizes that in order to put an end to the war, he may in fact have to kill the Fire Lord. Because in a world where we have magical benders, and the Fire Lord is one of the most powerful on the planet, the options for non-lethally stopping him are extremely slim to non-existent. And the thing about Aang is that he was raised in a pacifistic monk culture, and he is fully committed to upholding those ideals. he does not want to kill the Fire Lord, but he's also faced with the fact that he doesn't know what to do in order to stop the Fire Lord that doesn't involve killing him. And it's actually a very major moral dilemma for Aang, where he even consults with the past avatars and try to see if any of them understand his perspective, but all of them are like, no, you gotta do what you gotta do. And Aang even consults with the last airbender avatar, a woman named Yang Chen, and they talk about the airbender culture, but even she's like, but even Yang Chen's like, you are the avatar, you're kind of above all four nations. You might not have the luxury of sticking to your culture. And it really seems at that point that Aang genuinely might not have a way out of it, which is where the very contested plot element kicks into gears, comes into play. Because during the entire time when Aang was consulting with his past lives, he was on a mystery island, and the mystery island turned out to be a lion turtle. And the lion turtle then grants Aang the ability to remove bending from people. Needless to say, this was considered poorly foreshadowed at best, and a deus ex machina at worst. People understand the significance of Aang sticking to his ideals to the very end. They know what it means for his culture, but the execution is widely considered sloppy. Which actually swings us right back to the podcast I was talking about. Hang on. Brief pause while I throw away my empty plate now that I finished my tape. And I'm back. I think the problem with waiting for the overcharge to end is that Ozai is still very much a powerful firebender even without the overcharge. So defeating him would then raise the logistics of where the hell are we going to keep him prisoner after. Funny enough, that was actually another thing that was lightly touched on in the finale. Where at where because Aang had gone missing, um, because Aang had gone missing, the other heroes were considering the worst case scenario that he straight up wouldn't be found, and they would need a plan B in order to stop the Fire Lord. And one of the plans was Zuko talking to his uncle Iroh. Now, Iroh is Fire Nation royalty. He was actually the one that was going to be the next in line before Iroh took over. Although, to be entirely fair, Iroh did. To be entirely fair, Ozai didn't actually do anything. Iroh kind of fell to despair after his son died, and Ozai just swooped in to take advantage of the situation. But okay. In the finale, Zuko goes to talk with Uncle Iroh and asks him, why don't you face the Fire Lord and defeat him? And Iroh says that even if Iroh did defeat Ozai, the people would only see it as Ozai's brother coming in to do a coup, and the country would be destabilized that way. Iroh said it had to be the Avatar, and the implication there is because the Avatar is above the four nations, the Avatar is considered basically an authority that keeps all other authorities in check. Like, no one's gonna contest the guy that's basically a physical god that can wield all four elements. Are you talking about Avatar Roku? Because that was Avatar's. That was Fire Lord Sozin doing the ultimate backstab. But okay. The Aang taking away Ozai's firebending is hotly contested. So how did we get here? And the Braving the Elements podcast actually does have an answer for that. And that's that when the creators were drafting up this series, a hard and fast rule was that Aang was never gonna kill anyone. And that included the Fire Lord. So a story where Aang killed the Fire Lord, never gonna happen. Never on the table. So there had to be some other way of solving the situation. And what they talked about on that podcast felt way too familiar to me. Where they talked about, okay, if Aang is not killing the Fire Lord, then he's going to do something else. And they came up with the Lion Turtle and energy bending. Now the issue they ran into there was how to properly foreshadow it. They didn't want to bring up the Lion Turtle too many times and make it obvious that it was going to be big and important, but they also knew that they couldn't just not bring up Lion Turtles, otherwise it would indeed feel like it came out of nowhere. And the compromise that was eventually settled on is that they would have the Lion Turtle appear once to establish their existence, and then have it appear again at the finale. Could it have been done better? Maybe. But hearing the way it was described, I'm like, oh god, I get it. When I'm writing mystery stories, I know exactly how this is. Having to try to figure out just what the right amount of foreshadowing something is. The right amount of foreshadowing where you want people to be able to find it, but don't want to give it away. Oh, it is a massive headache, and I felt for the creators. I'm like, yep, you know what? That actually tracks. Also, real quick about the moon spirit. The only person that the moon spirit like visibly killed was after Aang was already ejected. Now, let's talk about that other thing you mentioned. About the fact that Avatar is a bit like a bit of a lightning in a bottle. I remember the exact moment that when Admiral... That is an entire separate debate. I'm not sure how much I want to get into it. Oh, now I've completely lost my train of thought. Alright, I vividly remember Admiral Zhao dying because it was like one of those poetic deaths where we have a very pissed off ocean spirit arriving to where Zuko and Zhao were. And the thing is, the ocean spirit was only interested in Zhao because he killed the moon spirit. And when the ocean spirit grabbed Zhao, Zuko actually tried to reach out to him. And for a moment it seemed like Zhao was going to, Zhao was literally too proud to live. Of course, that really bit Zhao in the ass later. The lesson there is to not be stupid and prideful. You may not actually remember what happened to Zhao after, because it wasn't in Last Airbender. Oh, Green Dawn. I might need a focus for this. Speaking of green, the fuck am I gonna do with you? I probably shouldn't, I probably should do something about it now. Okay, I need one more work to fill out this cycle. What do I want it to be? After I finish with Green Dawn, I'm gonna pick up the conversation again. I don't want to be unfocused when it comes to ordeals, because underestimating them really bites you. Anyone else lacking a smidgen prudence in this general area? Well, grin, I guess. What about safety? Owen! Owen's lagging in a little bit. Okay, you go. Owen's relatively close, so it shouldn't take too long. Wait, did I send Owen somewhere else? Oh my god, I think I might have sent him down below because he was, Never mind, I don't want to deal with that headache. Shoot. This may actually be a sticky situation here. I forgot Owen wasn't in the area anymore. Work temperaments then, with Owen. Oh no, wait, you're down there too. Why did this suddenly go very awry? Okay, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do later, but for now I'm just need to kick this ordeal into gear. Everett must be suppressing it down below, so Lamarcus, you take this one. And that seems to be all of them here. Emilia can probably kill it the fastest, so you go. London, you go. Anywhere else where there's one? There's one up here. Well, that can just be Gabriella. Oh, there you are. You're taking on this one. Yeah, you should. What armor? You should be fine. Any others? Okay, there's one down here. Oh god, Queen of Hatred! I completely forgot about that. Oh, we need to keep a super careful eye on that for the rest of the day. I was so busy talking that I completely forgot about that. Violet New next. Okay, he lost the Clythoth, but that's fine. I'm gonna gain it back easy. Question is, do I want to send someone to try to calm her down? Or should I just leave it? Hang on. What do the barriers do? Quick, I need to know. Attachment work success 3%. Who has the ears besides Basil? Need to check that. I may or may not be able to get us out of this. Galena also has them, and their attachment is at 103, plus 14. No, Basil looks like he's higher. That's very unfortunate. But then again, it says a lot that the solution to Bina's Pale attack is usually avoid getting hit on it at all costs. Okay, okay. Even if I completely forgot about Queen of Hatred, that does not mean it's gonna be the end. Just keep plugging away at the day. Okay. Partially to distract myself from Queen of Hatred melting down, I'm going to go back to what I was talking about. So, the question is raised every so often, how did a show as good as Avatar be created? And the answer is exactly the answer you'd expect. That's a bit boring but true. And it's that it's a show that happened because of all the people that were working on it. Nothing more and nothing less. But for the best way to illustrate the matter, I'm going to use a particular character to demonstrate, yes, this is how complicated the creative process can be. One of the most beloved characters of the Avatar franchise, Toph Beifong. Toph Beifong is definitely lightning in a bottle. And the story behind your creation shows that these things happen on purpose, but they're also kind of miracles. Because, and I'm remembering the information from the podcast as best as I can, when Season 2 first started, it was known that they needed an earthbending teacher for Aang, so they were hashing out concepts for that. And the original concept for Toph was actually that they were going to be a guide And this is something that's obliquely referenced in Ember Island players, where the person playing Toph is a big beefy dude. And but the more accurate description is that like the original character concept for Toph would eventually turn into Bolin from Legend of Korra. So a character like Bolin was actually going to appear in Last Airbender originally. But this next part is where the creative process really shows how fluid it could be. Because one of the people working on Last Airbender is Aaron E. Haas. And Aaron E. Haas would go on to create the Dragon Prince. The quality of the Dragon Prince is highly debated. And from what I've heard, Aaron E. Haas is definitely a good creative person. He's a talented writer and good at pitching concepts, but that didn't translate as well into the Dragon Prince because the Dragon Prince didn't have the exact same creatives as Last Airbender. It was always going to turn out different. That's just the reality of creative projects. But I digress. For the purposes of our story, Aaron E. Haas's contributions is that as they were pitching concepts for who would be the earthbending teacher for Aang, it was actually Aaron E. Haas that suggested that the earthbending teacher would be a woman, partially because Emilia worked with Blue Star. Oh, I must have accidentally put that instead of Parker. Whoops. Because the team of heroes was largely guys, except for Katara. So Aaron E. Haas suggested a female earthbending teacher to kind of balance out the gender ratio a bit. And that idea was accepted by the main showrunners of the show, but then it was a question of what kind of character Toph would be. And it was hashing out between the showrunners that the Toph we would grow to know began to take shape. Because the showrunners then felt that it would be very funny contrast if the earthbending teacher for the Avatar was like this super tiny lady, and that it would also make for a good contrast if this tiny dainty lady from a rich family was super wild and crude. And you can begin to see the pieces of what Toph would become fall into place. But not only that, but the showrunners who had accepted Aaron E. Haas's idea and wanted to see it come to life, then had a battle with executives at Nickelodeon, where the executives were like, no, the earthbending teacher still has to be a guy because that's the target audience of this show. And so the showrunners battled with the executives to do the changes that they worked on with E. Haas, and eventually the creatives won. And that's how Toph came to the screen. It's a process with so many moving parts that if any one of them had changed, then it might not have resulted in the Toph we know now. It's really fascinating to think about. When I really begin to talk, I can go for a while. Of course, being distracted like that is what got me in trouble just now with Queen of Hatred, so there's that. Okay, up next is gonna be a Violet Moon, so I gotta prepare for that. Violet Moon could get messy because of Big Bird. Okay. I'd be cool to keep talking about Last Airbender for the rest of the stream, but I'm opening to the floor for any further conversation topics while I try to prepare for the noon here. I did have one thing I wanted to bring up. If no one else has something to talk about, that's on the slightly more deranged side. But what the? Sometimes it's okay to get a smidge deranged. But like I said, okay, I'm going to save my topic until after the noon, because similar to the dawn, any ordeal requires lots of attention, and that goes double because not paying attention has already caused problems. Someone tell me how I managed to Someone tell me how I managed to make it this far. I would love to watch Unicorn Overlord. I'd love to watch a lot of things, but like I just mentioned, my drive to and from work is an hour. As you can imagine, removing an hour from every day that I could be doing with other stuff is blue. Being an adult sucks. I mean, that's not the biggest surprise in the world, but... Oh. I'm very surprised that hadn't happened until now. Waifu choice is another conversation that could be had, because it's something that could be interesting to talk about, but once again, only until after the noon. And the last one was Parker with who? Knight of Despair. Okay. After this, I need to get everyone into a corridor or elevator. Okay, time to move everyone into an elevator. Oh, that reminds me. For Central Command, do they appear in the upper layers or where the departments are, where the agents are, or the lower layers? Well, I suppose it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because there's only one corridor to hide out in. You guys are going in this elevator to not confuse them with the Justice Grinding crew. You know what? Since Amelia could slay no. Get him dead. Since Amelia can slay a Moon on her own, probably, I'm gonna have one of the welfare people trigger it. Okay. Attack. 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 Oh god, these guys are a smidge far from their obelisk. That works out nicely. And in fact, I think this one can be just Pansy because she has an A-lift weapon. Is that all of them? That should be all of them. Yeah, that's all of them. Now let's see how fast they die. That fast. Although it did take out a lot of clerks just by landing. But Big Bird's now at 3. Sigh. Gonna get everyone back to their department. and Central Command people back to the lower layers. I keep forgetting to do that. While I'm doing this, may as well go back to what I was saying before. There was one more thought I had about Last Airbender that goes into Legend of Korra, and I'm going to say again that, slight warning, it is mildly deranged. But it is also interesting in... it's basically a parable on how fan interactions evolve. Remind me, how many boxes were needed for everything for Wolf? Okay. Nothing happened with extraction. You just said that nothing lands past Central Command. Let's buy one of each and see where that gets us. 55. So not quite enough for this, and not quite enough for this. 136, I think. Oh, that reminds me, I also need to pray at the flesh idol at some point. I finished filling that out. But okay. Because of how long the Avatar franchise has gone on, it went from being a show that existed before the dawn of the internet, where the biggest way for fan interactions to happen would be through physical letters or physical meetups, to going into the age of the internet, where everyone is in contact with everyone, for better or worse. Oh, I have done more than enough conversations on how fandom interacts with Limbus. That is very well trodden ground. In fact, I think this might be the first stream where Project Moon hasn't been talked about much, but mainly because stuff hasn't, there hasn't been much to talk about. What could be the possible relation? translation translation discourse is another other separate can of worms. Um, the worst parts of the fandom and ruin it for everyone else. Honestly, hearing all that just now makes my little factoid seem quaint in comparison. The factoid I'm going to bring up almost seems like a palate cleanser. I keep forgetting that Queen of Hatred is freaking out. Don't forget Queen of Hatred. She doesn't like it. Okay, but what I was just saying. The era of the internet had been around for a bit when Legend of Korra was first being developed and shown off to the world. And, of course, one of the things about Legend of Korra is that it touches a bit on the previous cast. It would kind of have to. Even if the previous cast didn't physically appear, their presence would be felt through their children that appeared on the show. And one of those children, although calling them children is a tad misleading when they're middle-aged, is a daughter of Toph, Lin Beifong. Now, Lin Beifong is actually one of my favorite characters from Korra because of the arc she goes through as the series goes on. But this isn't about Lin Beifong's story arc. This is about her existence as we knew her at the beginning of the series. Where am I in this list? When Lin Beifong was being introduced to the world in the lead up to the series, the big question on everyone's mind, of course, is who's the father? Who's the father of Lin Beifong? And that was something the creative team was being intentionally cagey about, because they wanted it to be a surprise. And that actually leads to the factoid I have, if you want to call it that, because The Legend of Korra was around during the internet age, people could look up crew members of the show and ask them directly, which is actually what someone did. A director of Legend of Korra had a Tumblr account, and so someone directly asked him, "Hey, can you tell us who Lin Beifong's father is?" And the end result is something that just lives completely rent-free in my head. Because that director that was asked the question proceeded to go on a rant about why people wanted to just go up to the creative team and ask them these questions instead of just watching the show and waiting for it to be revealed. And it's basically a Why would you want to take the fun out of it by learning about it outside the show? Why can't you be patient and watch and see it unveil? Which in of itself is actually a pretty fair point. But at the end of this post, the director then ended it with, "By the way, Lin Beifong's father is Azula. It is very complicated." And that just threw everyone for a complete loop, which I think was the intention. It was basically supposed to be a conversation ender, something so outlandish that it basically kills any further discussion. But the funniest part is that some people took the statement and ran with it anyways. Because the internet is weird and wonderful. The most common interpretation of the statement, that when people are in the mood to take it literally, is Azula acting as a kind of mentor figure for Lin Beifong. Of course, this is Azula we're talking about, so how effective Azula can be at mentoring someone tends to vary wildly. We're actually almost done filling up with energy, so I have to decide what I want to do for this last bit of the day. If I really wanted to, I could probably grind out Wolf in the next cycle. Hold that thought. Maximin, that's who. Vanillaware tends to be mixed at best when it comes to LGBT representation. At least from what I've seen. I only know this because of the mild controversy it kicked off. I say controversy, but more like people being disappointed. I'm going to structure my thoughts before I continue, and or focus on this next meltdown cycle. You might be thinking exactly about what I was thinking about then. Okay. There's a slightly connected point to that, but before I can get to it, remind me of the name of the lady that's basically half of the pairing. That's like more the big tough gangster type. Gotta pause so that meltdown doesn't advance too much. I was drinking water. Okay, that's fine, and I completely forgot about the cross. Whoops. Remind me of the name of the other girl while we're at it. Just because I want to get into this conversation as a whole. Sing us a song of hollow victory, London. Pray your heart out, as if someone's listening. Okay, so I'm going to do several things at this point. First, I think at this point we can at this point we can grind out the wolf to get the rest of his armor, which I'm going to do right now. Hence me giving Maxim the Heart of Aspiration here, so he doesn't die. Okay, so basically, the reason people got sour at the twist in 13 Sentinels is because the dynamic between Yuki and Natsuno felt like it had hallmarks of a romance budding, especially because it had a big focus on Yuki protecting Natsuno from any and all dangers. And there were scenes that felt like that could be interpreted as romantic, so people were thrown off when it was then revealed, actually these two are mother and daughter. And from what I've seen, a lot of LPers tend to ship Yuki and Natsuno, and so are freaking thrown off when that reveal hits, and it's just kind of like, what? Why are we doing when Marnie was there again? No one liked it in that movie either. That was the other thing that I wanted to mention. Because even setting aside Natsuno, the character archetype that Yuki seems to emulate is the girl that makes other girls swoon. Like, if I'm not mistaken, that is a thing that literally happens on screen. Like, other female cast members that aren't Natsuno get drawn into Natsuno's charms and tend to be attracted to her. And so that makes it extra confusing that what they do with Yuki is pair her with the guy she didn't like that basically bugged her over and over again until she gave up and dated him. Like, that's just a yucky trope in general. And to see it to happen to Yuki, I don't know what was intended by the creators, but it seems like it wasn't a very popular decision. The plot of 13 Sentinels is a mild headache. I think that's enough. Yep. Okay, cool. I'm actually gonna grind out the flesh idol too, because there's no punishment in using it over and over. How much time is it on right now? 1:29. So, speaking of waifu picking and questionable writing, hang on, I should probably focus on that so I don't accidentally kill London. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll go one more. 6. Oh, no, leave. Don't want to stay in there too long. Okay, that's 203, and for full completion I need 3 minutes. So 2 30-second loops left. Three, 4, 5, 6. Where are we at now? Okay, just a little more. If I may be mildly blasphemous here, an idea that I kind of like for Conan is that, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Please tell me that was enough for the love of God. It was. Nice. Okay, if I may be mildly blasphemous for a second, an idea that I kind of like is that one thing that is in Detective Conan is that Mori has a bit of an infatuation with an idol he knows, but the thing is, as the series has gone on, Mori's relationship with the idol has gone from just the one-sided admiration to them actually being friends and kind of like allies because Conan and Mori help out the idol so much. So if there's any relationship for Mori, I would actually like to see that's not with his former wife. It would actually be with the idol. I think that would be very interesting. And on the topic of waifu picking and messy writing, which I think I said earlier and then didn't get a chance to elaborate, the very first stream series I did was Persona 4. And you always have a pretty wide variety of girls to pick from in Persona games. And one thing that is debated about is, are you picking a girl because it's who you would personally want, or if it's who you think the main character fits with best? Is it a little bit of both? And yes, I picked someone that most people don't, Ai Ebihara, because I wanted to see what her romance path would look like. And then it turns out I really liked Eri's romance path. It's actually very good. But, say I hadn't picked Eri, who would I want to pick? Or no, not Eri. Yeah. Say I didn't pick Ai Ebihara, who would I pick in that case? And the answer to that is, it would have been Naoto Shirogane, except also no. And you might wonder why not. Naoto is very good. One of the more popular characters. You would think that would be a shoo-in for a romance route. And no, it has nothing to do with Kanji. Kanji has an established crush on Naoto. And pardon me if this sounds cold, but Kanji, my brother in Christ, if you don't make a move, you don't get to complain about the end result. Love is a battlefield, and sometimes it's a messy war. But okay, setting aside Kanji. The real reason I don't like romancing Naoto is because of the way her romance route plays out. Okay, that is more or less everything I want to do in the day. So, to end things off, I'm gonna do something possibly very stupid. I am going to attachment work Queen of Hatred. If I can pacify her, I will push for a little longer. If not, I'm ending the day. Because I can't think of anything else I want to do today anyways. Naoto Shirogane already is tied up in a bit of controversy, because of how her character arc is handled. I've said it before, but I'm of the opinion that no, we should not just brush off Atlas using trans allegories with Naoto's arc. Yes, it is very much on purpose. Atlas are too smart of writers to do it on accident. I don't think it's just fans seeing into things that don't exist. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because her romance route is a bit tied up in it. Because a lot of the romantic events for Naoto go into the main protagonist as Naoto's boyfriend, pushing Naoto into presenting more feminine, even though she seems rather uncomfortable with it. And it's just kind of like, no, stop, enough. That didn't happen. What are you guys talking about? Nothing happened there. Oh, Queen of Hatred. But yes, I would romance Naoto if romancing Naoto didn't make me feel icky because of it. But it does. I dislike the way it's handled. Oh hey, nothing there's back. What are your other options? Letitia! Hello. I guess you're coming now. Oh, I was recalling the sound of your footsteps. While they were cliches, you sometimes made the results more exciting by acting in unexpected ways. Still, the endings were all the same, no matter how the process went. Do you want me to share some memories through a hologram? It's simply too good for you to watch alone. This was you in a mess when there was no such thing as a cognition filter. I didn't know that a human's mental capacity could be so weak back then. You did all right the first couple of times, but then one day... Well, at the time, it was a little funny. I'm sorry, you made it so far, but you weren't able to escape from that absolutely useless sense of guilt and hung yourself. Well, you were stopped immediately, though. Then, at this time, you were not fully prepared. That's when I started to realize it didn't matter if you were mentally whole or not. What mattered is that you needed to find realization about something to stop this endless cycle. Oh, at this time here, all of a sudden you began apologizing to me. That was... I didn't enjoy it. Is it difficult? Please understand. You should know that I don't have much entertainment that I can enjoy. Really, you should have left me something to pass the time with. Is it records or extraction this time? It's extraction because we put Flesh Idol in records, right? I want to make sure before I commit. No, it doesn't matter. I might put it in records then, because that's closer to the level 3 agents right now. After being passed up very early in the run, here you are at the end of all things. Ain't that just a coincidence? Okay, while we watch this little wee witch kind of twitch around, I'm going to sum up my thoughts I was saying earlier, but put them in greater context. Okay, let's pretend that there is zero trans allegory to Naoto's character arc. It doesn't exist. Even then, when Naoto is revealed to be a girl and has to acclimatize to that, the next day Naoto shows back up in her usual outfit, and when they ask her about it, they're like, she's like, oh, this is just what I like to wear. And the proper way to approach that is for everyone to accept that and move on. But that is not what happens. What happens is that for the rest of the game, Naoto is put in increasingly uncomfortable situations that shows off her body and generally just kind of makes her a fan service character, and she really does not want to be a fan service character, which kind of goes into her romance arc too, where at several points in romantic events, the main character pushes Naoto to be more feminine, like raising the pitch of her voice or making her wear a skirt. And like I was just saying, no, I do not want to treat Naoto like that. I will not romance Naoto if it means that that's how she gets treated. Ironically, I love her too much to put her through it. Let me put up the end screen. But that's just the way I see it. It goes back into what I was saying earlier. When you romance someone in a game like Persona, are you saying this is what I, the player, would be doing? Or what the character would be doing? And I want to see that. In the case of Naoto, I do not approve of the way that it goes, so I will not put either myself or Naoto through it. That is simply where I draw the line. I know it's different for other people. But on that note, this is where the stream ends. Next week, I may actually start a little early, because it's going to be mega grinding time of all the HOD movies in preparation for the memory repo the next day. And the Wee Witch we just got is going to help a lot with that. So, I'll see you all next week.